I'm just Jake here to give my review of the OMW SR200 that is long overdue, and still, though, some people are anticipating what is to be made of this new blaster. So I've already had this out of the package, but I wanted to show you it as it comes, because what you get with it when you open up this box is you do get a brand new SR200 that was originally scheduled to be delivered in April, and here we are. Got mine here just a week ago and been testing it, and we're in October. But that whole issue is going to be a separate video. I'm going to make this video specifically on the blaster and what pertains to it specifically. Now, I currently have the mid-grade setup in it because one of the features of this is that when you get it, also included in the box is a tool to basically, it's not a hot swap of cylinders or of springs, but you do have the ability to swap out spacers and both a 7 and a 12 kilogram spring. Now these are retaliator size, so spring options are easy to come by. And it has a 7 kilogram spring that goes with both a spacer that says right on it 7 kilograms, 120 feet per second, or the one I have currently installed at 7 kilograms, 150 feet per second. And then that's the 7 kilogram spring is used for both of those spacers, or you have a 12 kilogram specific setup that says 200 feet per second, 12 kilograms. Now this spring works with this spacer. There is a slight variation in the diameter of this because it does not actually recess properly. Like, it will go in there, but it's kind of a tight fit to make the spring actually go into the other spacers. And they're not specifically designed for it, so I didn't run it that way. I ran it and tested it as you're intended. Those are all included in a little foil bag, kind of. The same kind of foil bag that they send a number of their parts in if you've ever ordered, say, an Orange ModWorks metal trigger or a build kit or spring. But you do get this neat little tool that is specifically for changing out the springs. The blaster also comes with a spare front cap. This one is black. The one that is installed is orange. I'm leaving that on. And you also get a Orange Armory dog tag. It's actually a nice little cast metal piece. Now the blaster itself is kind of an odd mix. Now there is a back cap that I have left off for my testing. Don't recommend it long term. It is basically like a extra safety, but I've been swapping the springs and spacers so much I left it off, and I will for this video. But this is what you get. I've been testing it exclusively with Adventure Force Pro darts, so all of my test opinions and performance statistics will be related to how you would expect it to perform if you use what is now like the most common half-length on the market. And why wouldn't they be? They're fantastic darts. But the SR200, the 200 in its name, of course, goes along with the 200 FPS spacer and 12 kilogram spring. Some people may have originally got it because, hey, at the time this looks like a really nice option from a company that, while it has some shaky reputation in delivering on some of their projects, and yeah, I've personally been a part of the Cybertech and other projects, including that Slamfire kit that, let's hope eventually it makes the light of day. But this looked like a nice solid option of a very compact blaster. Well, it is. It's a pretty compact and very nicely feeling blaster to hold. The ergonomics are great, aside from one thing, and I'll get to that later in the video. But what it is a pump action, spring powered blaster with metal internals. This has a metal plunger tube, has pretty heavy duty metal priming rods, and as you can see right there, you can see the glimmer. I can see it on my camera screen. But that's also something I'm going to mention here in a bit later in the video when I get to some of my complaints. Now, I actually have pretty extensive use of this, as I was part of the third round of testing. Now, I must say this in full disclosure, I was sent a pre-production model that I put back in the box here. This one was sent to me. I paid for this This unit here, I actually put my order in on the last day of February. Yeah, last day of February. With my last paycheck before I was laid off. Timing, yeah. But I actually put my $150 down because that is the retail price of this from Orange ModWorks, which is the only place you can get it. So I paid my $150 and waited. Why did I get it? Well, Orange ModWorks, despite communication issues, despite sometimes their projects falling through, they do make some good products. Like, their springs are some of the best out there. I love their springs, along with a couple other companies. Their springs are very good. I've used them for years and years and years. And their blaster kits, like metal triggers, and their build kits are quite good as well. So I had at least a little bit of idea of what would come up with this blaster. And again, I'm going to leave the whole fiasco to another video. But specifically on this, that's why I bought it. I thought solid blaster, pump action, spring powered, with swappable springs to where you can easily access it. You want 200 feet per second? Great. You know, it's literally a less than minute change, and I will do it here on camera for you in just a second. But I bought it because that sounds like a really nice option. It has a 120, 150, and 200 foot per second setups that you can swap within a minute. Fantastic. So HVZ, local game, or a higher power game. You can have one blaster, do it all, in a nice, compact package that is easy to use, smooth priming, has full top rail, but no stock. And unless you're going to extend the barrel, or Orange ModWorks offers a accessory barrel, no scar. So unfortunately, because this attachment you see here, the actual barrel is about 2 inches back. So here's the actual tip of the muzzle. The actual barrel is recessed back this far. So a scar attachment, you're going to have to figure out a way that's, and this is very much proprietary. So it's going to require some tinkering to get a scar in there, unless of course Orange ModWorks decides to offer one. But let's get into the exact feature of this swappable spring. Now, I do already have this off, but this would actually be in place. So let's put this in place. I have it in my, what would be the local game setup. And yes, I'm going to do this for you here. A lot of threading. Okay, so we're going to set it here on the cushion. And we're going to start now. Let's say I want to swap it to the 200 foot per second option, which is going to require removing the cap, the spring, and the spacer. All of it. So out we go. And this is done by hand. This cap is just, you tighten it by hand. No tools required. So that comes out. Now you do need a tool to remove the spring spacer. Tool is included. And it's made of a very grippy material. I don't know if it's their palm material that they talk about, but it's pretty neat. It's very grippy. It's not rough, but actually kind of neat. I actually wish more hand tools had this kind of texture to it, because it is a composite, but it's also very sturdy feeling. Because I have dropped it on the floor, and I've got no chips, no breaks, no cracks. So there's the 150 foot per second spacer. Reach in, grab the 7 kilogram spring that you use with the 150 spacer. Here's the 12 kilogram spring. Here is the 200 FPS cap. And then use the tool to then insert the spacer down in. Again, 12 kilogram spring along with the 200 spacer. And I'll get to the FPS on these here in just a second. And when it goes all the way down in, there we are. And then on with the actual cap, which they would have to figure out a design, to be honest, if they were going to do an actual rifle stock here on the back. But a lot of threading. This takes the most time out of the whole procedure. But there we are. So that is a spring swap, spring and spacer swap. Now, if you're just going to go from the 120 to the 150 or the 150 to the 120, vice versa, either way, you just change the spacer. So if you want to get under HVZ limits, you can do that. And I have tested all three setups, again, with Adventure Force Pro darts. And the numbers aren't inspiring. I'll put it that way. With multiple mags dumped through the chronograph, I was getting, with the base setup, the 120, I got actually an average of only 95 to 100 feet per second. And again, this is all on Adventure Force Pro darts. On the 150 setup, it was actually the closest to the claim. I got an average of right at 139.9. So just about 10 feet per second under the claim. The 200 feet per second setup, I actually was only averaging about 175 to 178. And yeah, I had two different test sessions. One, my average was 175.1, and the other was 178.3. So at no point did the performance with Adventure Force Pros ever reach the exact claim. Now, I know Orange ModWorks does this odd thing, is that they, a lot of times, test with cut-down elites. I didn't do that. I don't have cut-down elites. My half-length darts are, I have some Jet, I have a bunch of Adventure Force Pro, and I have some of the aftermarket men gun style waffle tips. So that's what I use. I use mostly these, so that's what I test with. And I think that's what most people currently use, so I think that's the most productive data to give you. So I got 95 to 100 on their 120 setup. I've got 139.9 on their 150 setup, and I got two different test sessions to double check, but I got, we'll say, 175 to 178 with their 200 foot per second setup. So again, that's roughly 10 to 15% under their claim. Now, could I take this apart, lube it up, check the seals? Yes, I could. Is there more performance to be had there? I'm sure. I mean, you can just slap in with that 200 foot per second spacer, take that spacer and put their new 14 kilogram overload retaliator spring, install that in, and I'm sure that's going to boost the performance up. But I test blasters the way they come. Yes, I do have to actually, get in there with their little tool and swap the spacers, but I have not physically opened the blaster. And that's how I'm going to always test every blaster. So SR200 doesn't live up to the 200 foot per second name, and neither did my third round test prototype. That one was only hitting 186 at best. And I mentioned that to them because when they did the third round test, a number of us actually got blasters sent to us to review, give feedback, and I gave my feedback on it, and they said that they actually improved the breech, and then they improved the size of the plunger tube. But my main feedback was this. I said, this needs a stock. At $150, everyone's going to expect a stock. And that's kind of what I'm doing here in conclusion, is that, if you buy this blaster, you load it up with a few darts, and then you go out and you expect, well, you would expect 200 foot per second performance. With the name 200, that's in its name, literally. But when you don't get that, when you get, 175, here's the problem with it. Does it have good ergonomics? Yes, this thing is very comfortable. And in my testing, has it had any of the print issues? No. They have changed the print, obviously. I mean, this print feels very durable. I actually, on the prototype especially, I really, really was rough on that. And I've shot about 1,000 rounds through it and had no issues of any kind. So whatever they had that issue with, they've solved. And the grips are amazingly comfortable. And that metal trigger, I love the weight and feel of the metal trigger. This blaster also has a lot of heft to it. It feels solid. The best way I can describe it is, where a Nexus Pro, it feels light and a little flimsy at times. This feels hefty and solid. It really does. And having these full rails, these are stainless steel rails running all the way through, the rods here, you can see them where you prime it. Having those run all the way, the full length, makes it actually does feel really tied in. There's no flex. It feels quality, and you have that entire full rail, so if you want to do whatever you want with it. My main complaints were, though, no stock for those who want a stock. The muzzle needs to accept a scar. Like, it needs to. Like, right off the bat, at $150 price range, it needs to. And at $150, I would like to see the 200 setup at least hit the 200. I mean, I would accept if it was 195, 192. You know, if it's in the 190s, okay, that's fine. But it should hit it. It should hit that, not in the 170s. The 150 hitting 140, that's okay, that's fine. But the 120, it doesn't. With me testing it with 50 shots over a chronograph, I didn't get it to break up over 111. That was the closest shot to 120. So, the greatest thing about it is it's smooth to prime. And it feels solid. It feels good. It's very comfortable. Like, where you rest your hands, it feels nice. It's fully ambidextrous. The mag release is very easy to reach. It looks great. They made a statement about the jam doors. You know, trying to make them easier to get to, easier to open. Well, they're still very finicky. I have them open, like always, because I want to show the priming rods here. They're very beefy priming rods as well, very sturdy. However, with those priming rods, you're not clearing a jam anyways. I mean, unless your fingers are the size of a little wooden pencil, you're not clearing a jam. Because those priming bars block access to the breech. I mean, if you pull the mag out, but then if you pull the mag out and you have to reach up in the mag well anyways, which is, you know, a little bit of a safety issue, if you have to do that anyways, then these jam doors, they don't apply regardless. So, personally, I think the SR200, it's a neat concept. You know, it was neat in idea, but without it coming with a stock, without it having a attachable scar, at $150, there's other options out there that you could certainly go after. I mean, especially, like, I like top primers, so the $25 Aeon Pro, meeting the majority of performance of this, I mean, it doesn't have a stock either, and that's why I'm showing it. Is neither one of them have a stock. So, with the Aeon Pro being only $25, you could go crazy modifying your Aeon Pro. And, of course, with the Nexus Pro, the Striker, with all these options available at much lower prices than the $150 entry fee of the SR200, where does it leave the SR200when you can go buy this for $50 at your local Walmart? That's literally a third of the price. You can buy 3 of them, or you can buy 2 of them. And if you want I know this was intended to be one blaster for multiple purposes, but what's wrong with having multiple blasters for multiple purposes? You could go buy 2 Nexus Pro, or 2 Strikers, we'll say, either or, but I'm going to use the Nexus Pro since it's what's in my hand. You could go buy 2 Nexus Pro and set one up at a lower power for HVZ in local games, so, you know, hitting that 120 or so FPS. And then you could modify one, you know, put in some metal internals, and bump it up to the 175-200 range. There's more than enough parts out there to do that. And if you bought 2, one you're detuning, so that's just going to be reducing the power. That's going to be just a spring swap. But you're not going to be into much more money, or more at all, just some time and tinkering, compared to buying one of these. Oh, and that actually has a stock. So, as much as I actually still like Orange Mod Works in a lot of ways, but as much as I like them, this can't be recommended. And yeah, I spent my own money on it. And will I still use it? Absolutely, I'm going to still use it, because I still kind of like it, but I've already paid my money. And since I've already paid my money, what I'm left with now is, I mean, I will run it. It feels good. I do wish it had a nice stock to it. I do wish there was a scar attachment, and I mean, that's really what it needs. And then maybe a nice optic up on top. So, I mean, I've already got it. And my $150 was paid all the way back at the end of February. I ordered literally the very last day of February as kind of a birthday present to myself, because my birthday's in March. And it just now showed up a week ago. And that's another issue for another video, which is going to be, I'm going to film it literally as soon as I end this one. So I'm going to release both of those together, but specifically on the blaster, unless you really, really like it, unless you really like the looks, and you really like Orange Mod Works, I personally wouldn't recommend this being the first thing I'd spend my $150 on. I bought it because I really had a good last impression of Orange Mod Works with the kit that I recommended for the Recon and Retaliator, their hybrid kit. I mean, to be honest, if you thrifted a Retaliator or a Recon Mark II, I would recommend buying their kit to install in it over buying this, because you can get that kit for $50 on sale and put it in a, say, like a thrifted Retaliator you paid a few dollars for, put a pump grip kit on that, and you're golden. You know, that would cost far less to do that, and that kit provides 150 to 160 feet per second, and it can fire both full length and short length. So there's an option. So it's not all bad. I mean, now they've solved their printing issue, and it is kind of a quality blaster, but there's other options in that $150 price range, and there's other options way below that $150 price tag. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I don't give this a recommendation, because that's more of for you to decide what you think your money could be better spent on. This is Mongoose Jake. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this all the way to the end. I did think that this blaster deserved a bit more discussion that will go into another video. So stay tuned for that one on my opinions on how Orange Mod Works handled the SR200 situation and what I think of them going forward. So that's the next video up. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy it.